Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Niall. This is the Shankly Sessions, and this is your Wolves versus Liverpool FA Cup replay preview. We're also going to have a little chat about Qatar and all the news that's coming out around that. Obviously, things seem to be moving quite quickly now, and it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Love to get your thoughts in the comments on it. Let me know what you think, especially with our fantastic club and its cultural background inset into the city of Liverpool and all, and the history and the legacy and all that stuff. What happens now if Qatar was to take over the club and stuff like that, and how does that all fit with them and their plans going forward, and a number of things there in terms of the dynamics of it. But first of all, huge game tonight against Wolves. Safe to say the last thing we needed was a replay, especially at this time with confidence absolutely in the gutter. In fairness, we weren't very good against Wolves, and we were even worse against Brighton. A total capitulation by all the players on the day, which leads us to a lot of concern at the moment in terms of we keep on talking about the transfer window and, you know, needing the need to refresh and get in midfielders and all that kind of stuff. But you look at it now and you think, well, if you have 11 players out there capitulating, you're in real trouble. And some of it is in relation to the players, there's no doubt about that, in terms of taking responsibility for their actions on the pitch. Some of it is in relation to the coaching. And I think when I talk about the coaching, I talk about like the keep on changing of the formation to try and make things happen in a game and stuff like that led to a lot of confusion with players. And at times you looked at players that were quite bewildered and not understanding their job. And the one thing we've known over the years during the Klopp era and stuff like that is people going on the pitch exactly knew their job. The coaching was at that kind of level. But now there's a little bit of a lack of confidence, and what that lack of confidence doing is it leading to a kind of a questioning of what we're doing and stuff like that, and players on the pitch not sure where their place is and what they should be doing, and you know, not understanding their job and certain things as well. Like our hand is being forced in somewhat, and the gaffer's hand is being forced in terms of playing players maybe that he might not want to play. And we heard him in the press conference yesterday talking about loyalty and all these different things and stuff like that. And he wouldn't say he's too loyal. Fans would definitely say he's definitely too loyal. And when we see players like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain coming on, and you know, Naby Keita and stuff like that, these are guys who clearly want out of the club, and yet they're being played. And not only are they being played, they're being played and the youth isn't being used, and they're being played as well at a time where they're not playing very well. So that's led to questions over the gaffer, which is an interesting dynamic as well, because he now finds himself in a position where a lot of questions are being asked. Press conferences aren't the usual smile, ha ha ha. It's a lot of tetchiness and a lot of like, you know, I've answered this before, why am I being asked again? You're going to keep on being asked until solutions are found and stuff like that. And the transfer window now a little bit worrying as the investment stroke takeover or buyout, whatever it is, starts to take momentum now. You could see why FSG aren't going to pump any more money into the club. If I was on the way out the door, I wouldn't be pumping any more money into my business. But it leaves us in a real dilemma at the moment, sitting ninth in the league. Teams above us that shouldn't be above us, but they are there on merit, and hats off to them. And we've looked very one-dimensional. We've looked cowardly. We've been poor in possession. There's been a lot of finger pointing and a lot of staring at each other as to who's at fault and stuff like that. You know, we lose as a team and we win as a team quite clearly isn't necessarily there at the moment. And we're going into a very tough fixture at Molineux against Wolves. We know how good Wolves are. We know their strength. We know the potential of their bullying power. We know they've got some fabulous footballers on the team, albeit they're a little bit blunt at the moment. But certainly Lopetegui has gone in and done a great job in shoring them up at the back. They're not coughing up as many goals as they did. And there's a certain amount of stability has come in there now. Now Molineux on average night going there is a very difficult place to go. An intense crowd, raucous atmosphere, which you would expect. And certainly they have some players return to form. Of course, Daniel Podence, we spoke about him last night on the Monday mashup. And we also spoke about him on numerous occasions in the podcast. So yeah, very, very good looking at him at the moment, really back to form. sweet strike against West Ham at the weekend. So things are looking really good for Wolves at the moment. For us, again, everything seems a struggle, disjointed. We're not really playing the way we have in the past. That sort of synergy isn't there in terms of movement back and forward, and we move as a unit. Everything is kind of sporadic. Players are out of position, and it's been a real struggle. And we're at risk of going out at the first hurdle in the FA Cup, which would be really, really poor. The FA Cup is probably one of the few things in this season we might want to hang on to, because I think getting top four now is going to be a real struggle unless there's a massive change of form. And I wouldn't be holding a huge amount of hope out for the Champions League against Real Madrid over 2 legs, depending on players if we can get them back off injury. And we heard the good news yesterday that Diogo Jota has gone back into training and Darwin is back in. He's looking quite close. Now, will he risk him for the Wolves game, or will he hold him for the Chelsea game, which is a massive game at the weekend coming up as well? And I would say for Liverpool at the moment, for us at the moment, every game is a massive game now, because we are so far off the pace. If you look at all competitions form at the moment, Wolves with 2 wins, 2 draws and 2 losses. We're 2 wins, 3 losses and a draw. So pretty poor form for us. A little bit haphazard for Wolves, but certainly he is tightening things up big time. As we said, Darwin Núñez could come in. If you look at team news at the moment, Wolves are missing Sasa Klasic, Pedro Neto, Boubacar Traore, Chiquinho, and there's a doubt over the fitness of Diego Costa. If Diego Costa makes it, there's going to be a lot of soul searching in our defence tonight in terms of Konate and Matip. He's going to pour on the shithousery there, and we have to be man enough to stand up to it. And he could cause us a lot of problems in terms of distracting us for other players. I don't think he's the threat he used to be back in his Chelsea days, but in terms of causing chaos and in terms of being niggly and in terms of all those kind of things, can derail us a little bit at the back. And if we rock up the way we did at Brighton in a cowardly type of fashion, with a bit of fear going out on the pitch of what might happen, certainly he's the man to ratchet that up. Adama Traore, of course, and Raul Jimenez, we know how dangerous they can be. Traore more in the creative side of things, not necessarily in the fishing. Raul Jimenez still trying to find that form that he had prior to that head injury, but he can come alive at any given time. Yeah, so looking at ourselves then, I think, obviously we know Virgil van Dijk is out, Artur is out, Luis Diaz is out, Roberto Firmino is out, Jota's only kind of back in training. It's going to take him a while to get back up to speed. Hopefully, I would hope Stefan Bietic makes it. Should recover from a hip problem, but I'd love to see him get involved. He brings great energy in that midfield, and that's really what we need. And of course, let's see what happens with Fabinho and stuff like that. It's a real concern for us at the moment, because the gaffer's hand's being picked as well. And again, he stated yesterday that this might not be the right moment to go into the market, but this unless there's a massive change at the moment, either a change in tactics or a change in personnel or stuff like that, this could get real toxic real quick and real poor and get a whole lot worse. Like a loss against Chelsea at the weekend now would drop us right down in there, and we'd be absolutely in the mire. The last thing we need is Thursday night football in any shape, form or fashion next season and stuff like that, in terms of trying to rebuild and move on, especially with the new ownership. And I think it will be a real struggle. It's also going to be a real struggle to attract in the players that we want, because we've seen in the past with a lot of these players, it's not just necessarily about the money. Most of the teams these days going into the market offer big money. I mentioned even last night Bournemouth going in for a player there off Bristol City, 50 grand a week or something like that. Massive money for a club like Bournemouth, and for a player coming in from Bristol City as well. So they show that they have money, that these teams have money. But it's more about, how successful can you be when you go there? What sort of a legacy can you create? Are you going to be in the shake-up for silverware and all these things? And that's really what's going to be key and so important to some of these players. And especially Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham has the world at his feet at the moment. Real Madrid interested in him, Man City interested in him. All the top teams are going to be interested in him. And it's going to take a hell of a lot of convincing to get him to Liverpool, as well as a hell of a lot of money. But we're starting from a real poor point if we sink down like that. Thursday night football and that kind of thing. And at the moment, let's be honest, the way we're playing Thursday night football is not even a given at the minute. So, it's a real concern at the minute. Let's go through the starting lineups anyway. So for Wolves, not a huge change from last time. Sarkic in goal, Semedo, Collins, Toddy, At-Nouri, Hodge, Neves, Nunes, Traore, Jimenez, and Hwang. The difference Hwang made when he came on the other day, I do like him as a little baller. He's a feisty little baller, gets stuck in there. We know how powerful Traore is given the time and the space to do what he wants to do. That midfield of Nunes, Neves and stuff. Hodge put in a great shift, looks a real baller as well. At-Nouri, we know how dangerous he can be coming from those deep positions. And solid enough at the back now. Lopetegui's really strengthened them at the back and stuff like that. So there's a bit about this Wolves team, that we need to be wary of. It's just the thoughts of going out of the FA Cup, and I know waiting for us is another away trip to Brighton. And they'll like nothing more than that again, after looking like they have our number. So we'd like to go back there maybe for the next round of the FA Cup and maybe right the wrong of the league maybe and show them that we're not necessarily these cowards, let's say. For Liverpool, of course, does Alisson go in nets or does Quivine go in here? I'm not too sure. I don't have a thought either way. Wouldn't be a bad thing maybe to put Quivine in. Let's see. Trent, obviously, looking like Gomez, Konate and Costas by the looks of this. Keita, Fabinho, Elliott, Salah, Gakpo and Carvalho. Now, I would change that around. If I was the gaffer, that's a very... it's a change of personnel, but it's a very straightforward formation as well that Wolves could easily deal with. I think we need to shore up at the back. And if I was the gaffer at the moment, I'd be looking at finding it very difficult to cough up goals and see what we can do on the break. Especially in a place like this, because very quickly this tie could be over if we're not really careful. And looking like playing those players on that kind of formation, it looks like we could be in a bit of trouble in terms of, bypassing the midfield and all that kind of stuff. We know how powerful their midfield is. If they're going in against a Keita, Fabinho and Elliott, I think we're going to be very lightweight. I think we'll get overrun in midfield. The cleverness of Nunes and stuff like that, I think we would be in trouble. This is the predicted possible starting lineup, of course. I would go 5 at the back. I would play Gomez, Konate and Matip. I'd have Robbo and I'd have Trent either side, providing the width up and down that line and the energy. I'd go with a midfield 3, and in there I'd put Fabinho, I'd put Bietic and I'd put Thiago, and up front I'd go real narrow. I'd bring Salah in off the wing and I'd bring Gakpo in off the other side and have them real central there. But what it means is you're opening up that space down the flanks, and it's down the flanks where we're going to have to attack Wolves. Going central is not going to work for us. They will outplay us in the central positions. There's absolutely no doubt about it. They have better footballers than us in the central positions. So that's what my thinking would be. Little bit concerned about this one. I wouldn't be surprised if it went to extra time and penalties. I'd be really concerned about that. The last thing I want to do is go into a penalty shootout with our confidence the way it is at the moment. I'd be really concerned about that, but we'll have to wait and see. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm hoping for a Liverpool win. We need some sort of kicker there to get us going. But certainly a more solid change in formation. That's set up not to cough up goals, especially not early either. We just want the boys to show up and be accountable for their actions, don't we? We want them just to put in a shift. That's all I can really say about it. It's kind of, I don't mean to come across a little bit depressed on the previews at the moment, but in fairness, the team hasn't given us a lot to shout about recently. And they have to take it on the chin, and I think Klopp made that point as well, that 2-man, they know their responsibility and stuff like that, and they know they haven't shown up. But the question is, it's becoming the norm as opposed to the unusual, and it's a real concern. It's a huge game. My guess is it's probably our last chance of silverware. I don't see us really doing anything against Real Madrid. I would be concerned. And this season very quickly could be over, real quickly. I hope not. I hope we do the business, but we will wait and see. Now on to Qatar. Let's talk about Qatar. News breaking the other night. Al Jazeera reporting on it, Bloomberg reporting on it, and all these. So these stories don't come out to these big media organisations unless there's a little bit of fire behind it, of course. And we're hearing that there has been a bid put in. Apparently FSG wanted 4.2 billion, money we can't even fathom. But apparently Qatar Investment, whatever it is, either this holding company or whatever it is, apparently they've submitted a bid of 3.5, and apparently that bid has been accepted. That was the talk, but nothing has been confirmed yet. But there's a lot of stuff coming out at the moment, a lot of tweets, a lot of especially from that region, people close to the Qatari family and stuff like that, and Qatari investments, tweeting out a lot of stuff and all, saying, you know, this is where it's at the moment, really, really close to a Liverpool deal. So I would ask you, Liverpool fans, how do you feel about this? I know a lot of people are kind of up in arms about it, not too happy about it, they don't want to be state-owned, all this kind of stuff. Then you have the dilemma there that they're also heavily involved in PSG. So would it pass the litmus test in terms of the Premier League and the FA? And how does that work in terms of the ownership? Is this a totally separate company? On reality, is it really a totally separate company? Most of the investment comes from the same place. How would that pan out in terms of the Champions League? What if PSG drew Liverpool? Or how does it work even in terms of, you know, if we did push forward with a European Super League, where would that leave us as well? If in that Super League we drew PSG or something like that, that might be a concern. There was talk going around that the Qatari family were about to finish up Project PSG and potentially sell it off. There was talk of Lionel Messi, of course, heading off to Saudi Arabia potentially in a massive deal, 309 million a year. And then, you know, the fundamental things with Liverpool, for me, following Liverpool as a fan, for me it's a life thing, it's a lifestyle thing. It's not just me following a football club. I've invested 42 years of my life in Liverpool Football Club as a fan. And I don't know how I feel about it, but what I don't want is, if this is the direction football is going, and where it doesn't sit nice with us, and maybe we don't necessarily like it, we might have to pallet it, we might have to take it on the chin if we want to remain competitive. If we don't make moves like this, and we've always said in the market there's no such thing as clean billionaires, but if we don't make a move in the market like this to fund the club and do these things, we could be out in the wilderness for a long time, because clearly FSG don't have the appetite to pump the money in that's needed to be competitive. We see the rise of Newcastle now, we're seeing the rise of many other teams. Man City is still a powerhouse there. So financially, we have to find a way to level that playing field, to give Jurgen Klopp the finances he needs to remain competitive. We can't stagnate anymore. We can't, you know, wring out that wet towel and constantly wring it out and expect to get the results that we want to be competitive. You know, we can't keep on chiming in with the mentality monsters and all this kind of stuff. The real worry for me as well is what happens with the youth system and the academy and all that kind of stuff. Do we just start going out and cherry picking the best players, and where does the youth fit in, and where does that project sit and stuff like that is a real concern. We can see at Chelsea at the moment, of course, Bowley is going out just flipping that cash out, buying players hand over fist. So where does that route into the team come from our youth and our youth policy? Some would say it hasn't been overly successful. We have produced some. But there needs to be some sort of an idea and a plan, and I know Jurgen is heavily involved in this. And then of course we have to talk about the gaffer. The gaffer was highly vocal on his thoughts in relation to the World Cup and that region and all that kind of stuff, and very highly vocal in terms of state ownership for the club and stuff like that and all. So the thing about it is, if the takeover happened and it was that Qatari investment group, what happens to Jurgen Klopp's position? Would he be able to stay with what he has said in the past? Would he consider walking? Who knows? Would his time at Liverpool be done if FSG's time at Liverpool would be done? Who knows? We would hope not. And even if these finances were available, and you know, bottomless money is available to go out in the market, would he truly push the button on it? And we're going to find that out as well, and that should be interesting as well. But they're just some of my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Obviously, it's a concerning time for Liverpool fans. We may be on the cusp of a takeover or a huge investment. For this season, my guess is it comes a little bit too late. I don't know whether I see us bringing in any more players. And I think this season is going to be a kind of a trip and a splutter through it. I wouldn't be surprised tonight if we went out of the cup. I wouldn't be surprised if Real Madrid absolutely wiped the floor with us. I would hope not. I hope players are back. But yeah, just some concerns out there at the moment. Concerns that now maybe is not the right time. I'd rather just go out and buy a midfielder or two in this window and then maybe add to it again in the summer and stuff like that, so we don't have a massive summer where we're clearing out half a team and stuff like that. I would have liked it to be more staged. If you put it into context, over the last 2 windows for Chelsea, they have spent the equivalent of what we've spent since 2018. And simply with the success that we've had, that's simply not good enough. We've sat back. You know, when we talk about, when Jurgen talks about loyalty and stuff like that and all, and you know how loyal, is he too loyal? Certainly the fan base would feel that he's being too loyal. Now, we don't want any player hung out to dry and stuff like that, but there comes a time in every player's career where it's that time, and unfortunately we sat back and we didn't see it, and at times our hand has been forced into having to buy players that through injury or through positions and stuff like that not necessarily be wanted. I mean, some people would say, should we have bought Cody Gakpo, or should we have been going in for a couple of midfielders, or you know, certainly the answer to that, the proof will be in the pudding as the season develops. But yeah, I mean, it's time for Liverpool to fix up, shore up, get a bit about them, bring a bit of a smile back to the team. The team's shoulders are on the floor. Jurgen, to see that image of Jurgen the other day, you know, basically begging the fans for forgiveness, is the saddest image I've seen him. This is a guy who has lit up the Premier League like a superstar. We say it all the time, he's the superstar at Liverpool. But those players now need to go out there and now represent the club, and tonight's a huge night, and hopefully it's a restart tonight and a starting position where we can build from. Looking at some of the players that might be involved wouldn't give me a huge amount of confidence. We've got quite a stable Wolves side there playing really, really well against, dare I say, parallels with Nottingham Forest with us at the moment, when Cooper was chopping and changing and mixing things around and changing formations and not letting that to settle. I think if you look at the Brighton game the other day, we changed formation 3 times. And players were just bewildered, absolutely bewildered. So coaching needs to fix up, players need to fix up. We need to go out there and put on a performance. Don't let those fans down like you did on Saturday. Those fans were really let down on Saturday. Hence Jurgen going over to apologise to them and ask for forgiveness. Let's not repeat that and put the gaffer in that position again. Let's get out there and fight for every ball tonight. No harm in losing, but there's a way to lose, and that's not the way to lose. Until next time, folks, this has been your Wolves versus Liverpool FA Cup replay preview. Little sprinkling of Qatar in there as well. We will be back tonight with a match reaction and player ratings. Wish me luck, Jurgen. Wish me luck. Don't want to be doing these the way I'm doing them at the moment. They're really from the heart, and they're tough at the moment. It's taxing on us at the moment as fans. So hopefully we can get that result tonight and push on into the Chelsea game. But let's see what happens. If you want to contact the show, folks, the uppertierpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Wherever you find your socials, we'll be there. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Let us know your predictions in the comments. And let us know your thoughts on Qatar. Until next time, a pleasure as always. You'll never walk alone.